is good, YouTube? Quinn Wade Basketball Analysis coming to you with a quick video. I wanted to let you guys know I got some new merchandise available, not just t-shirt anymore. I got different type of t-shirt, different type of shirts and logos that you can purchase on my spread shirt, and also hoodies now. We have expanded and added more to the channel and more merchandise for the brand. Thanks for supporting. It will be in the description and the links will be in the comment section below. Thanks for helping me and supporting the movement. Quinn Wade Basketball Analysis. I'm going to check out the video. What is good, YouTube? Quinn Wade Basketball Analysis coming to y'all with a video. We're going to talk about the Detroit Pistons, a team that made the playoffs last year at a 41-41 record, slid in there and got into the playoffs and got swept. I think that this team was going to make the playoffs last year, and they did. I really wasn't surprised about that. You had a reinvigorated, rejuvenated, and a remastered version of Blake Griffin, shooting threes, handling the ball, shooting threes off the dribble, getting to the paint, being a significantly better facilitator since he came into the league. Blake Griffin plays nothing how he used to play. He changed his entire game, and he's a modern day big now. And the fact that he still can knock down mid range and his free throw shooting has even improved. Him getting traded to Detroit helped them make the playoffs, and him and Andre Drummond isn't the best duo, but they serviceable. And when it comes down to this team, I just feel like Reggie Jackson has been the Achilles heel of this team. If Reggie Jackson is healthy and he's playing like Reggie Jackson, this team is a lock for the playoffs. Reggie Jackson is a guy that put up 18 and 7. Those are all-star caliber numbers. And I know a lot of people don't like Reggie Jackson because he hasn't been consistent or he hasn't lived up to his contract, or some people didn't even believe he was worth the contract that he has now. But one thing I know about Reggie Jackson is he can play, and I like him. Is he going to be a starting point guard after this season? I really don't believe so, even though I am a fan and I did like him becoming the free agent for this team when he did sign his contract. But now that I done seen the injuries and I done seen how his career has went, I don't think he's going to be a starting point guard. Some people think Derrick Rose is going to give him some competition for that spot because he's been hungrier. He's been getting back to form, and he's showing that he can still dominate a game. He doesn't play the same just like Blake Griffin, but he had to change his game because of the injuries and the fact that he slowed down a little bit because of the knee injuries. And, he had to take a different approach and reinvent himself. So I think it's going to be some competition for that point guard position. But regardless of who they take, they both are serviceable point guards, and they both are point guards that can get to the paint. They both are point guards that can heat up and really take over a game at any time in any quarter. And they both shown that they can hit big shots and they both can be closers. So having competition is never a bad thing unless you just want the spot anyway. Other than that, most competitors want to compete. Most competitors want to prove that they're better. And I feel like Reggie Jackson and Derrick Rose both do that well. And I feel like Derrick Rose's improved three-point shot makes him a perfect fit with Drummond and Blake Griffin, because he gives him that floor spacing and he gives that ability that if he gets ran off the three-point line or contested, he can get to the basket and finish or dump it off or lob it. And that's another important thing because this team sometimes struggle to get easy shots. And I think that's something that made them so mediocre is they're not a great defensive team, plus they're not a great scoring team. And even though they did enough to win games, that might not be enough in the future, because I still do have the Detroit Pistons making it to the playoffs. I still think that they're one of the better teams in the East. Do I think they're a top 4 team in the East? No, but I do think with Dwayne Casey and Blake Griffin Drummond, I think that's enough to get you a 7th or 8th seed and get a first round exit. But then again, that's what they was every year that they've been making the playoffs, damn near for the last 10 years if they did make it. And it's just because they can't compile enough assets to really get 2 superstars, and you're paying Andre Drummond $27 million, which isn't terrible, but he's not really a dominant force, and he can't really do much offensively. He's an improved defender, but he still isn't the elite defender that you need anchoring your defense. I do like the pickup of guys like Sekou, who's the guy that is a small forward that's 6'9". He's only 18, so he can grow and become even bigger than what he is right now. He is a little undersized. He is a little bit, but a whole lot of he's undersized, but he's very raw. This is a guy that won't impact winning no time soon for this team, but they don't really need him because they got guys like Tony Snell that can switch and guard the ones, the twos, and the threes and give you off ball shooting and knocking down threes. He's also a guy that can get out in transition and get you easy baskets. They also picked up Markieff Morris, another guy that you can throw the ball to that can get his own shot. He can knock down spot up threes. He can also knock down mid range, and he also is a decent low post scorer when it comes to the fadeaway. Not only that, it gives you somebody that can give you some valuable minutes. If Blake Griffin get injured, you still got a serviceable starter that can still contribute to winning and help you win a couple games if Blake Griffin goes out, which is basically every year. But now you have somebody that can give you some scoring at that position, and you got some depth at that position this year. Don McCarr, he's in the season where he has to prove a lot. A lot of people have given up on him. A lot of people thought it was a smart move for the Detroit Pistons to pick him up, but he's still not getting that many minutes on Detroit. Plus, on top of that, I don't really see him getting that much this year unless he improves drastically, which he's going to need to do if he really wants to be in the NBA long term. I do think teams going to give him a chance just because of his potential and his athletic ability and his potential shooting and versatility and shot blocking ability is another thing that he has potential in. But other than that, he's just more of a prospect. He has potential, and teams going to try him out just for that. And Detroit is one of those teams, but they need to take flyers on players like him and Sekou because they don't really have superstar upside on this roster outside of Don and Sekou when you come to young prospects. So, in my personal opinion, I do like the Christian Wood pickup too. He's a versatile forward, and even though he might not be on the roster at the end of the year, he's a quality player at that power forward / center position. I do like Langston Galloway. He's a guy that can play his role, give you some outside shooting. He can come off the screens and give you some floor spacing and some mid-range shooting as well as threes. Plus, he's a guy that knows his role and doesn't try to cede that. Luke Kennard is another guy that can knock down open threes and he can create a little bit. And I think that they need that type of energy. They need that type of guy that can create his own shot and give them shots when Blake Griffin is on the bench. And they need guys. And I also like the fact that Joe Johnson is another one of those guys that in the fourth quarter, you can play him at the 3, you can play him at the 4. He can create shots for himself. He can play off the ball. And he can knock down threes, and he can knock down mid-range, and he can even make plays in general just by making the right pass or making the right read. And I think that that's something that they didn't have outside of Luke Kennard and Derrick Rose last year. Now they have it now. And they had to eventually upgrade this roster. I feel like they did a fantastic job of finding guys at the right value. They're not paying Joe Johnson that much money. Luke Kennard is on a rookie contract. Don is on a rookie contract. They're only paying Markieff Morris $3 million. They're only paying Tony Snell $11 million, which isn't terrible. They're only paying Derrick Rose $7 million. And Langston Galloway $7 million. So they got a lot of value out of the pickups that they have because most of those are quality NBA players, which I can't really say for them last year, but that's not a problem this year. But I still do think that the guard play is what has evolved for this team, and I think that's for the better because I think they definitely needed other guys that can handle the ball and create their own opportunities outside of Blake Griffin and Reggie Jackson. And once Reggie Jackson went down, they only had to rely on Blake Griffin to create and do literally everything. But the problem is Reggie Jackson has been injured, not last year, but continuously since he's been in Detroit. So I think that him being healthy, him having other creators as well as Blake should keep him a little healthier because they're not going to be asked to do everything for this team as terms of creating shots. So now they have a lot more weapons and they have a lot more guard play and they have a lot more shooters. That should make it a lot easier for this team to repeat as a playoff team. And I love it. I love what they have done for what the roster that they have. I love what their contracts are that they signed and who they picked up. It just this team is still going to be a mediocre team in the East, and they're not a championship contender, which is the only part that's unfortunate about this team is the fact that it's a okay roster. It's better than last year, but the NBA got a lot better and a lot tougher. Um, and they're going to be competing for that 6, 7, 8 spot just like they was last year. But at least they came in with the idea of improving this roster and giving themselves a better chance of making the playoffs. And that's what you want to do if you're the Pistons, and that's what you want if you're Dwayne Casey. And I feel like they put the right pieces around the type of team for what it is. But eventually they're going to have to blow this team up because they're not going to win a championship with this team. And, this team is going to have a little bit more cap relief in the future, but not too many big name free agent signs with teams like Detroit. Like their big free agent signing was Josh Smith at one point, and he did have superstar upside, but he never really realized it. Then after that, they really haven't had anybody significant, and then they had to trade for a guy like Blake Griffin. But Blake Griffin isn't going to win you a championship with a roster like this, and I don't know if Blake Griffin can win you a championship as the best player anymore on a roster, because after he has went through these injuries and he's not really reliable because of the injuries, and they even hurted them in the playoffs. I think Blake Griffin is better off being a complimentary player at this point. He's still one of the best players. He's still one of the top 25 players in the world, but you need somebody that's in that top 10-ish range or higher to really get you to the promised land. And I don't think that's Blake Griffin at this particular time. But I do got to give him credit. He had a lot of criticism. He was able to improve his free throw shooting. He was able to improve his handle. He was able to improve his his 3-point shooting, and he was able to become a better facilitator. And he continued to evolve. He continued to adapt, and he had made it to the All-Star team in the All-NBA roster. And he's on pace for a Hall of Fame career. A lot of people doubt that Blake can't do what he did last year. I think that with the more talent and with more help, that should allow him to be healthier, but that also will give him a chance to have one of his better seasons, as his job should be a lot easier this year because the talent increased. But also, I think that he likes the challenge of proving his doubters wrong, and he likes the challenge of continuing to evolve and get better at the game of basketball because he enjoys and loves playing it. So, with that being said, I think the Pistons are going to be a first round exit. I think they will make the playoffs, and I think Blake Griffin will be an All Star again. If that is true, if they're a playoff team around All Star break, I think he definitely will be a an All Star, and I think that he does still have a chance to be All NBA performer for that forward spot. And with Kevin Durant being out, that helps him have that chance too, because that's one small forward or one forward that's elite that he can take that spot for, even though he was on the All NBA team last year. That just gives him a better chance of making it again this year, and that gives him another chance of getting closer to that Hall of Fame, which he's close to getting in. Plus, I think he's still got a couple more years of being a decent player anyway. I don't think this is the end of his run. I think Blake Griffin will find ways to stay relevant, and he will find ways to stay effective in the NBA unless another major injury causes him to decline. Other than that, I think he's still going to be one of the better players in the world, and he has continued to show that the last couple years. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Is this Piston team great? Is it not? Do you think they're going to make the playoffs? Do you think they're going to not miss it? Do you think Blake Griffin going to be an all-star and all-NBA player? Do you think they're going to trade Andre Drummond? Do you think that Reggie Jackson is overrated? Or do you think they really need him? Or do you think Derrick Rose should be starting over him? Whatever you feel about the Detroit Pistons, let me know in the comment section below. But I do have them making the playoffs, and I do have Blake Griffin being an all-star and an all-NBA player for the second season with the Pistons. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, check out my older videos on my channel. I have many playlists. I break down rookies, I break down players, I break down summer league. I do cover the draft, and I got a mock draft up already. Not only that, I do podcasts, and I also talk about the game of basketball, whether it comes to summer league, free agency, trade deadline, buyouts, and also I cover top 10 discussions and stuff like that. So you like this type of video, you like the NBA, check out my older videos and my playlists. I enjoy making these videos. You guys enjoy watching.